All right. So, wow, after that evolution, change, being exposed to a new variant, another epiphany around the Georgia Guidestones and other historical purges that were meant to evolve, innovate, change, advance humans. And I'm, you know, you know how it is when you're learning a lesson, whether it's the individual or the collective, you got to go through the same bullshit over and over and over again. And I see it out there in the population. People do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, but the outcome is always the same, right? Until they finally realize that they can't do the same thing, even if it's repackaged, and expect a different result. And so a lot of it is changing the expectations. Okay. And so the only way that we won't have to revisit the Georgia Guidestones, so like I said, the Bible and other apocalyptic dystopian type things are all about the whole dying and reproducing at the macro level and the micro level. But that's only because you haven't figured out how to learn how to I don't know, have balance within a population. And so you have to go through this cycle of learning from your mistakes over and over and over again. And so, yeah, the Georgia Guidestones, the Bible, the other dystopian apocalyptic type scenarios like World War II, the Cultural Revolution, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, all the wars, everything will keep repeating until humans finally figure out that they must live indefinitely and not be cured and evolve with the advancements of technology, with the advancements of education. But we weren't given the chance because we were told one thing. And well, now you're being given the chance to learn everything. And even with your access to learning everything that's on the internet, that's in the textbooks and all of that, people still refuse to learn the information. They only want to learn from one doctrine like the Bible or the Constitution or their favorite pundit, but they refuse to take in all the information and process it all together and then have more of a bird's eye view and a balanced way of looking at things. And so we'll even repeat probably what's going on now with the internet. Because you look at everyone's all stuck in their groups. If anything, it's even more pronounced. Before it was like, oh, you hear about it in the newspaper, like, oh, there's cult and that cult and this religion and that religion and this political thought process and that political thought process and this dictator and that dictator. So Newsweek and all of those magazines back in my time, Time Magazine, Newsweek, the entertainment section, all of that, Channel 2 and 5 and 7 and Channel 44 and all those different, all those relative to the same news stations were giving you snippets of the diversity in the population, 2-second sound bites. But now you see how divided humanity is on Facebook, on the internet. And so, yeah, just because we see how divided everybody is on a bird's eye view doesn't mean we haven't learned anything. So we're going to be repeating this for a while. At some point, when the collective finally figures out how to stay alive indefinitely, we won't be going through these crazy atrocities, these crazy purges like we're going through. And I'll tell you, it's insane. And how long I don't even want to say how long, because time is relative to just what you think time is. Time is relative to your death process. We know that there's a universal acceptance of time when it comes to years and months and days and minutes and hours and seconds and all of that. And the revolutions of the earth around the sun, if you are heliocentric, there's geocentric models out there, but still, like, again, we have to look at logic and reasoning. There's a specific logic that we work from and reasoning. That doesn't mean it's the most correct. It just means that we have to be uniform in how we think about things. So that's why we are taking on a heliocentric model because all the formulas, all the math, all the concepts are based upon a heliocentric model. Now, if you want to go and upturn the heliocentric model and upturn all the different formulas or on a number line that give you measures and what is it, metrics and all of that, and you want to turn to a geocentric model, then you'd have to take the same prototypes of the heliocentric model and apply something completely different. And that would be like reinventing the wheel. But hey, it's been happening. People have been reinventing the wheel all the time. Okay, you know, I'm like, me writing an introduction 10 times is coming from one perspective that is like everyone's out to get us and we're all gonna die someday, which, okay, that actually is not too far from the truth when you think about it. But then I'm like, oh, it's because they're trying to evolve. And there's that perspective. And the other perspective is, oh, we were raised by the Sumerian pantheon. Oh, the Greek gods. Oh, the prostaglandins. Oh, the viruses. Oh, shit. And so you see how many times I go from one perspective to another perspective to another perspective. And that means I'm learning all the different perspectives in my community, which means that none of them are wrong or right. They're all relevant. It's a matter of which perspective you're going to come from. And can you back it up with logic and reasoning that would be compatible with that specific line of thought? And that's, again, like we are in a world of a heliocentric model. So again, Kepler's and Copernicus and, you know, all the theory of relativity and all of that, Einstein and whatever, all were basing all of everything they're doing, which still can be probably still applied to even a geocentric model. But we have to have a uniform way of doing things. If not, then you have chaos. Just like you have, you know, one religion that believes in this, another religion that believes this, and they can sort of live relatively peaceful in a community, but you know, every so often it's always one person that gets a little, you know, nose hair and they get all whatever and they want to go and spout stuff off and trigger someone on the other side, and that's where wars start. And so that's the de-evolution of humans. That's the breakdown of humans when they can't, like, how do we have a diverse population and still be relatively peaceful without imposing our belief systems onto others? That is the conundrum of living in a diverse world, is the fact that we are allowed, that we can release the biases, and that's the B cell memories. And when I created that word evocative, which is basically evolution and creation, hybridized, and I looked up the word evocative, which is actually a word. Evocative means it brings up very strong memories, images and memories. I'm like, oh, that's kind of the same thing. Evolution and creation is very strong memories. They're changing. Evolution is just changing. It's taking one molecule away, adding a molecule here, and relative to your perspective, how much time you have on Earth, you'll be like, oh, this is like, you know, the newest thing since sliced bread. But then I look at my website and it says Immortal Hominids, and I'm like, I need to change even my book name. It's, you know, it's Immortal Humanity, but it's the Great Reset. You know, what is it? The meta humanity, the Great Reset, humanity, meta humanity, revolving meta. I mean, I can't really get too pigeonholed in saying hominid. I mean, maybe I should say immortal. Maybe it is Immortal Hominid, and then the Great Reset, revolving humanity, meta humanity, revolving meta humanity, or something. And so there's got to be something that shows that okay, humans came from a prototype that was innovated and taken away information, added information. Doesn't mean that is like the beginning of time or something. That yes, you came from a sperm and an egg and you turned into a fetus, and the fetus had to be edified to a specific society, and then that fetus turned into a toddler, turned into a child, turned into a teen, and then a young adult, and then an adult, and then here you have this programmed, meat suit that has some conscious thought and self-awareness, but it's not the end all be all. even antiquity. I'm looking at old pictures of like the Sumerian pantheon and the cuneiform and all the different texts and the languages and the carvings. Yeah, I mean, you take away all your modern conveniences. Right now, you take away everyone's modern conveniences, and you put out herds of animals and a bunch of trees and maybe you teach a few people how to make fire, how to turn bear fur into clothing. We can go back to the caveman days. It's not difficult if you have it within you to survive a very harsh climate. But if you've already been edified and introduced to climate control, introduced to a warm, fluffy bed, introduced to nice floors and a backyard, would you go back to the caveman days? So then you'd have to essentially take a baby, like they did, like Tarzan, and put him out there with the animals, or put him out there with some indigenous population, and they'd be taught the indigenous ways. And so we can go back from being a first world to a third world just like that. Just take away all the people that understand what it's like to be comfortable and be in climate control and like the washing machine and all that, and we can keep reinventing the wheel all over again. All you gotta do is just take away the knowledge and put in a person who will only learn the indigenous way of doing things. And so you can go and recreate prehistoric times over and over and over again. And you can put in like dinosaurs if you change the atmosphere, make it drier and hotter and more viscous in the atmosphere. And now you have a bunch of dinosaurs that are 50 feet tall and predatory. And you have the plants of the times, the prehistoric times, the Cretaceous period. And do we have to put a number on it, like a billion, million? No. We are in a simulation, and you can take away human advancement and add human advancement. And that's like taking away stuff in SimCity when you're playing the virtual reality and you're building your metaverse. And you add a shelf here, take away the shelf. You can add the sliding glass door, or you can put in a red door. I mean, that's really what our world is about. And so looking at the old pictures, it's easy to program someone to think that it is linear when things are not linear. But how do we stay within a very relatively peaceful existence without having to do so much change all the time? Well, that's the thing. That's my conundrum going okay, is the powers that be, are the powers that be, are they planning, like they said, 500 million, but we don't even know if they're going to keep to that. That's just could be the justification for why we're doing stuff, to make people feel okay with the purge, for those that are a little bit more intellectual in thought and understand both sides of an issue. But will we have a time where we can where we're not going so far into evolution and advancements, where we're living like Star Trek in the holodeck and going to war with the Klingons? Will we have some kind of relative peace? But then what would humanity's purpose be? Just to get up and push a button and have your food there. And then you have, you have your other segment of society playing a part of an actor and actress. I mean, that's when I get up, I watch the actors on the news. They're telling us about all the atrocities and the different wars and the stuff that goes on locally and the stuff that goes on overseas. And so then you're like, oh God, reality is the entertainment for those that are relatively peaceful. And so then I'm thinking there's going to be segments of the population who are not very well advanced that are going to be manipulated by those who know how easy it is to manipulate someone who's not very advanced and get their hormones to be at the surface. And then people do really weird things, you can say stupid things, or they do things that are beyond what most humans can do because they're being strategic in their survival. And then those are the stories. They go and find that person that went in and was more strategic than most of their people, and that then becomes the storyline. That becomes a series. And so then you're like, oh God, Okay, so when you think about being so advanced and not having what we have today, then what is humanity's purpose when they get up in the morning? And so then it's like you have to manufacture a flight. You have to manufacture those with differences because it's the entertainment of watching people react to each other. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, when I can fast forward into the future, and I know the advanced future, at least from watching the science fiction stuff, yeah, there's the intergalactic type of culture, and where you push a button, you have the med beds, and the pushing a button, you have all the food right there, and the clothing is very functional and doesn't wear off, and you don't have to keep making tires for your vehicles. They are now vehicles that will never have to be fixed because of all of the advancements. And then you're like, okay, so now I have a vehicle that never breaks down. I have a TV that never breaks down. I have a house that never breaks down. I have a dog that never dies. I have a couch that will never break down. That's totally comfortable. What is there to live for now? What do we do? And if I can blink myself to Hawaii or whatever desirable place by just going into the holodeck and smelling the smells and playing with the animals and then zip myself out of it, then what? Go off to a different galaxy and experience a whole different architecture? Well, you can build that stuff here. Do you have to go to another galaxy to go and look at different architecture when that could be built right here if you had the means to and you had the advanced population? So then I'm thinking, oh my God. So I'm going in my mind, like, where am I trying to go here? Where am I trying to go here? And this is life. Life is the ebb and flow and watching other people, watching the stories of other people. And if the people who are in the stories realize that they're in a story and they take themselves out of the story and become the observer, become the audience, not the actor, then you're like, and that's the magic, is realizing that you're the actor, but you're not realizing that you're being manipulated. That's why CNN calls all the different people that are playing parts in these wars bad actors. Because you either are part of the war, part of the entertainment, or you're observing the entertainment. That's the difference between evolution, between those that are advanced in their intellect and those that are not very advanced in their intellect, when they are actually the script. They are actually the storyline. And they can be used as pawns in the games of chess and the games of stratego, whatever we call that. The games of Monopoly. And that's when you're like, holy crap, we are in a virtual reality. But that's what I had to figure out, is what am I trying to do here? What's my point here? Where is the ultimate destination? Well, it's not the destination, it's the journey, but realizing your place in the journey and that you don't have to die in the journey of just understanding the world that you live in. And then you can be the observer that gives the actors opportunities not to have to be the actor, not have to be in the Hunger Games. Because the Hunger Games is exactly what they're doing. There's the power elite that wear all their crazy clothes and look very diverse and we're in pink and white and all that stuff and heavy makeup, and the indigenous people who are living in the different wards or the different whatever, they're being told to fight to the death, to compete. And then they're controlling the weather. The power elite are making people fight. And they're controlling the weather. They're controlling the perimeter. The Hunger Games is exactly what's going on. The Truman Show, the Hunger Games, you hybridize all these types of competition, dystopian type of thing. You realize that that's the world that you live in. Now you have the opportunity to be the observer. Now you could be the observer and still be in the story and not have to die. You just have to know how to dodge all the stuff, like those that are in New Orleans. At some point, you got to get out of New Orleans because they're going to decimate New Orleans. That whole place is going to be leveled over and over and over again until you're like, okay, is this worth it? Having to have a destruction and rebuild, destroy and rebuild, destroy and rebuild. at some point, where is there going to be a place where there's not going to be, I don't know. That may be the Hunger Games, is that everywhere you go, everywhere you live, there's going to be a period of destruction and rebuilding, and you just have to be prepared and listen to the indicators and survive it. And so that's, we're going to have a bunch of tornadoes today. That's Ohio's future today, is we have a bunch of tornadoes. So I'm getting prepared for that mentally and physically. But I had to figure out, okay, now how do I write this damn introduction yet again for the 15th zillionth time? And so, oh my God. And that's where I'm saying, even being the observer and being the actor, good actor, bad actor, whatever actor, they're still playing a part. Just so you know, even those that are watching the Hunger Games in the movie, the Power Elite, they were still playing a part too. And they weren't infallible. They weren't, immune to the influences of even what they were doing. And so you got to put a human face on the Power Elite that understand, because they are just as human as you and I. But they happen to have more knowledge, and they know how to manipulate those that are not very evolved. So, yeah, I got to think about this. This is crazy. All right, bye.